In the previous episode, Alaric used the tuning fork to capture Sybil, and he and Stefan learned from her about the origin of the Sirens and the Hell Lord Cade. Sybil completely controlled Damon, who then killed Tyler, becoming someone despised by his friends. To prevent further harm to his friends, Stefan locked Damon away in the family crypt. Bonnie's love moved Enzo, reawakening his humanity. In a letter Tyler left for Matt learned the identity of another siren. When Caroline showed him photos of the twins on her phone, Matt recognized that Celine was actually a siren. When Alaric and Caroline returned home, they discovered that Celine and the twins were gone. And in their drawings, the twins had depicted Josie, Lizzie, Celine, and Cade. After Celine took the twins, Caroline compelled the sheriff to mobilize the entire police force to search for her. Alaric called Celine, threatening that if his daughters were harmed, he would make her life a living hell. Though Alaric is only human, Celine felt his authority over the phone and quickly ended the call. At that moment, a familiar voice sounded behind Celine. Sybil, with Damon by her side, had found her sister. After over 200 years, the Siren sisters were finally reunited. Bonnie and Enzo were finally living a happy life together, but that morning, Enzo was shocked to receive a call from Damon, who was supposedly still sealed away by Stefan. Curious, Enzo answered the call, and on the other end came the Sirens' haunting song. A splitting headache overtook him. He had only just escaped the Sirens' control, yet now he was falling back under its spell. After learning that Damon was once again aligned with the Sirens, Caroline refused to let Stefan join the rescue, having set her heart on killing Damon. Stefan, however, would put Damon first, no matter the time or place, so Caroline rejected his help. Caroline even returned Stefan's engagement ring.
Until this is all over, there is no us. There's only me and my kids.
Heartbroken, Stefan had no choice but to stay back and work in support with Matt. Unexpectedly, Bonnie arrived with Enzo, who felt like he was being dissected alive. The Siren's mental assault was affecting his physical body, and Stefan decided to enter Enzo's mind to see what was happening.
Congrats, mate. You're about to have a tour of some very dark places.
Inside Enzo's mind, Sybil was performing a brutal dissection as punishment for his betrayal. Meanwhile, in the real world, Sybil continued to eat at a restaurant, casually managing both tasks at once. When Sybil pierced Enzo's eye, Stefan could no longer bear to watch and exited Enzo's mental world, immediately ordering Matt to list all nearby restaurants. Sybil still harbored resentment toward her sister for abandoning her all those years ago. 200 years ago, when the Armory was hunting the sisters, Celine left her younger sister Sybil and escaped alone. Celine explained that they were immortal and that temporary confinement was inconsequential. Over the past 200 years, she had been searching for a way to give her sister true freedom. Damon hurriedly interrupted their argument, thinking Celine planned to offer the twins as a sacrifice to Cade, which seemed unbearably cruel. Celine clarified to Damon and Sybil that she did not intend to sacrifice the twins, but rather to have them take the sisters' place as Cade's new servants. Her plan was to raise the twins for 10 years, but Sybil's interference disrupted everything. Damon's thoughts raced when he heard this. Just then, the restaurant's patrons received the police alert and turned to look their way. Celine had no choice but to softly hum, putting everyone under a trance. When Caroline and Alaric arrived at the restaurant, they found that it was already deserted. Alaric then contacted Stefan, requesting he re-enter Enzo's mind to track the Siren's movements. During the journey, Damon became very interested in the conditions for becoming a servant of hell. From Celine, he learned that one must first be a supernatural being and then willingly choose to serve Cade. Thus, Celine had been subtly instilling in the twins the idea that Cade was akin to God. Ahead, a roadblock was set up, and officers stepped forward to inspect passing vehicles. Celine began to hum, casting a mental charm over the police. In the officers' eyes, the back seat appeared empty, but the twins suddenly broke out into a loud fight, shattering Celine's illusion, and Sybil instantly killed the officer. Not long after, Alaric and Caroline arrived. Frustrated by being perpetually one step behind, Alaric was at his breaking point. Meanwhile, Damon, now aligned with the Sirens, began to take control of the situation, claiming he'd come up with a win-win solution to grant the Siren sisters freedom without having to wait another 10 years. Privately, Damon shared his plan with Sybil, hoping to gain her support. Sybil, in her usual dual-tasking style, listened to Damon's proposal while simultaneously torturing Enzo in the mental realm. At the same time, Stefan once again entered Enzo's mind, but this time he didn't stand idly by. Sybil, who had been stopped, sneered.
There you are. I was wondering when you'd shift from creeper to participant.
Where are the twins?
It turned out Sybil had been aware of Stefan's presence all along and proposed a deal. If Stefan came to her alone, she would release Enzo. Stefan accepted the deal, freeing Enzo from Sybil's mental attack. Upon arriving at the motel, Stefan received a call from Caroline. The moment he answered, Caroline accused him. "You have no right to exclude us. These are our children." Stefan replied calmly, "You're still my fiancé, and I'll bring the children back." However, neither Caroline nor Alaric found Stefan's promise reassuring. They knew that when it came to Damon, Stefan would inevitably cave. Caroline and Alaric, feeling powerless, argued heatedly. Alaric lashed out at Caroline, bluntly declaring that once the children were rescued, he would take them away.
Our kids!
My kids! Mine and Joe's.
As the sirens summoned Cade, the Lord of Hell, Stefan entered the motel, only to find that all the guests were under the sirens' control. Trapped and outnumbered, Stefan resorted to killing his way through. Damon grew somewhat concerned for his brother, but Sybil remarked that this might help Stefan reconnect with his true nature, as Cade desired ruthless executioners with blood-stained hands. After dealing with most of the threats, Stefan was exhausted, with only one last brute remaining. Damon appeared without a sound, but chose to stay on the sidelines. Even as Stefan was driven to the edge, Damon showed no intention of helping, only cheering him on from the sidelines. Stefan mustered his strength and killed the brute in a final, desperate move. Looking around at the aftermath of his violent deeds, Stefan was filled with sorrow, while Damon offered snide commentary from the side. Stefan focused solely on finding the twins, and Damon agreed to lead him, but hoped his brother would agree to a few conditions. Meanwhile, Celine used Stefan's slaughter to summon Cade. Cade appeared in a sharp suit, exuding authority and a powerful presence. Celine immediately laid out her proposal, expressing her wish to substitute the twins in place of the sisters. The twins' potential far surpassed that of the Siren sisters, and with proper guidance, their future would be limitless. Seeing Cade's apparent satisfaction, Celine thought the deal was sealed, but she was shocked by a betrayal from her own sister. Sybil proposed what she saw as a better option, the wicked Salvatore brothers.
Two powerful, immortal vampires. They'll be much more potent weapons for you than these helpless children.
Just then, the Salvatore brothers arrived, and despite Cade not having given his answer yet, Stefan eagerly agreed to the arrangement. After all, this was the only way to get the twins back. Cade examined Stefan with a playful look. When Caroline and Alaric arrived, Stefan greeted them with the twins in tow. This made it clear that Cade had ultimately chosen the Salvatore brothers. Watching their family reunite, Stefan forced a smile, though his eyes were full of sorrow. Afterward, Caroline put her engagement ring from Stefan back on, knowing he must have paid a heavy price. She couldn't help but wonder anxiously, what was that price?
It means I surrendered my immortal soul to Cade. I have to serve him the way the sirens did. Delivered the darkest souls to hell so I don't end up there myself.
The Salvatore brothers would now serve Cade for all eternity in place of the sirens, a reality that brought tears to Caroline's eyes. Stefan was left with just 24 hours of freedom. On the other side, Celine was deeply displeased with her sister's unilateral decision, but regardless, the result was favorable. They were both free from Cade, no longer needing to hunt down damned souls and no longer destined for hell after death. With a sly look in her eyes, Sybil said, "My agreement with Cade doesn't include you, sister. You're still destined for hell." Once again, Celine found herself betrayed by her sister. Unfulfilled by freedom alone, Sybil told Celine that the game had only just begun. That evening, Alaric sought out Matt. After some veiled compliments, they reached an understanding. To protect their friends, they would have to eliminate that threat, even if it was someone who had once been their ally. Damon also had only 24 hours of freedom left. With no friends left, he drank alone at a bar, only to be ambushed by Alaric and Matt, who caught him off guard and wounded him badly. After a day of pent-up anger, Alaric wanted to kill Damon to vent his rage, while Matt sought revenge for Tyler. But little did they know that without Damon's intervention, the twins would have been forced to serve Cade. One perk of serving the devil was true immortality. Though Alaric drove a stake through Damon's heart, he didn't die. Instead, he was sent back to the mortal realm. It was Christmas Day, and Damon and Sybil appeared uninvited, leaving Alaric stunned. Damon remarked that Alaric had dug himself too deep a grave. Caroline quickly called Bonnie and Enzo, telling them not to come to dinner to avoid further trouble. Enzo had a flash of insight. Sybil would never carry the tuning fork on her person, making this the perfect chance to steal it back. But first, Caroline needed to find out where Sybil was staying. So Caroline warmly welcomed Damon and Sybil, though Stefan made it clear they were not welcome. Sybil reminded them that if it weren't for her intervention, Cade would have chosen the twins as his servants. Damon wanted to catch up with his brother alone. The two went up to the attic, where Stefan curiously asked Damon what had brought him there. As Damon rummaged through the boxes, he explained what he had gained from his death. He had met Cade afterward, and surprisingly, the two had really hit it off. Suddenly, Damon drove a decorative item through his brother's heart. When Stefan wakes up, he finds that he is still in the castle, but it is empty. Cade appeared, explaining that this place wasn't hell, but rather a kind of waiting room. Before resurrecting Stefan, Cade wanted to discuss a partnership. He wasn't satisfied with the Stefan of today. The ruthless Ripper of the past was the servant he desired. Monterey, 1917, on Christmas Day, Stefan slaughtered an entire summer camp, sparing no one, young or old, earning him the title of the Monterey Ripper. Meanwhile, Caroline invited Sybil to help prepare the turkey. To anyone unaware, they might have seemed like the closest of sisters. Sybil's method was quick and brutal. Within moments, she had shredded the turkey into pieces. Taking advantage of their chat, Caroline subtly found out where Sybil was staying, then quickly excused herself to inform Bonnie of the location. When Caroline entered the attic, she found Stefan dead, while Damon sneered, assuring her, "Don't worry, he won't die." Furious, Caroline attacked Damon, but he easily subdued her. As messengers from hell, the Salvatore brothers are already vampires who are beyond death. After realizing the reality, Caroline is completely powerless to resist. With Damon and Sybil's arrival, Alaric hastily moved the children to safety. Unexpectedly, the twins had grown attached to Celine, and despite Alaric's efforts to convince them otherwise, they held an unshakable affection for her, leaving Alaric feeling despondent. Matt and his son came to the appointment, but they didn't expect Damon and Sybil to be waiting for them. Caroline, caught in the middle, tried to keep the peace, hoping to prevent any conflict. She handed out gifts to everyone, even Sybil. When it was Damon's turn, Caroline presented him with a small gift box she had specially chosen. Damon looked displeased. Why was his gift so small? And Caroline's words left him feeling baffled.
That there is a future you that is going to ask for my forgiveness one day.
Seeing Caroline's hospitality, Damon felt he should offer something in return. He claimed he'd brought a grand gift, though he warned that it was reserved only for the one person here who deserved it most.
One lucky little elf is going to get an all-expense-paid, one-way trip straight to hell. Meaning, I'm going to kill one of you.
Bonnie and Enzo found the Siren's lair, only to discover that Celine was there, having compelled the homeowner to invite Enzo inside. Bonnie and Enzo stood at the ready. Celine, however, said that she was willing to hand over the tuning fork, but only if she could talk to Alaric. With no other choice, Bonnie dialed Alaric's number. Celine revealed that to groom the twins, she had left a mark on their young minds, binding them to her. Now she wanted to help remove it, otherwise they would remain linked to her indefinitely. Without a second thought, Alaric refused, assuming it was just another one of Celine's tricks. When negotiations failed, Bonnie noticed a list Celine had made, names of deceased souls under her sway. It was a habit that seemed oddly familiar. Meanwhile, Cade led Stefan's soul on a journey back to 1917 Monterey, but Stefan remembered nothing of the sins he had committed back then. However, seeing himself amid a pile of corpses, confused and lost, Stefan began to falter.
That you showed remorse meant nothing to me. But for some reason, it did to her.
Only the Ripper. Stefan could garner such appreciation from the devil himself. He was a born killer, the perfect ambassador for Satan. On Christmas Eve of 1917, the Ripper of Monterey had slaughtered an entire camp of people, men, women, and children alike. At the time, Selene, acting as Satan's messenger, was responsible for hunting down the wicked, and she had set her sights on Stefan. Stefan had a peculiar habit of recording the names of his victims, which piqued Selene's interest. She launched a mental attack to infiltrate Stefan's mind. Simultaneously, Selene began recounting her connection with Stefan to Bonnie and Enzo. Enzo was curious as to why Selene had spared Stefan back then.
When I looked into his mind, I didn't see evil. I only saw anguish.
Looking astonished, Selene explained that she had seen herself in Stefan. He reminded her of the elder sister among the Siren sisters. So, she had cast a spell to erase Stefan's memories of the massacre and altered his subconscious. From that point on, Stefan had repressed his Ripper nature. But now, Cade wanted Stefan to become the Ripper once more. After being betrayed by her sister, Selene knew she was destined for hell, and redemption was her only hope. Even though Alaric refused to let her see the twins, Selene still handed the tuning fork over to Bonnie and Enzo. Meanwhile, Caroline's Christmas dinner turned into Damon's interrogation court. Matt's sin was accidentally killing his girlfriend, while his father, Peter, had abandoned his family. Tensions ran high at the dinner table. At that moment, Alaric arrived and confessed that the worst thing he'd ever done was failing to make sure Damon was truly dead. Ignoring Alaric's biting remarks, Damon continued to question Peter, asking why he had abandoned his family. Peter's face flushed with shame, but he wouldn't answer. Not hesitating to use Peter's life as leverage, Damon finally forced him to admit the truth. He had been too humiliated by his lowly job cleaning bathrooms in town. Matt was utterly disappointed in his father, and even though Damon declared Peter the winner of the evening's sins, Matt was unmoved. In the end, it was Sybil who spared Peter's life. Sybil demanded that Peter reveal the whereabouts of the family heirloom. When Peter looked confused, Sybil had no choice but to invade his mind to search for it. Just then, Enzo and Bonnie arrived, and the noise from the tuning fork sent Sybil into a splitting headache. But to their surprise, Bonnie was affected as well, forcing Enzo to stop. Damon seized the opportunity to take Sybil away. Stefan's soul returned to the castle. He was willing to serve Cade, but refused to turn back into the Ripper. To Cade, Stefan was like an unopened sword, so he threatened Stefan with the twins' safety. Stefan had no choice but to yield, agreeing to become the Ripper, but only on the condition that he would serve Cade for 1 year, after which both brothers would be set free. Cade is hesitant. Stefan starts bragging. "Believe me, it's definitely worth it." Sybil was moved by Damon's rescue, thinking she had completely replaced Elena in his heart. But when Sybil opened Caroline's Christmas gift to Damon, it immediately awakened something inside him. The necklace had originally been a gift from Stefan to Elena, but over time, it had become a testament to Damon and Elena's love. Unashamed, Sybil put on the necklace. Lost in his memories, Damon couldn't help but smile. But the moment he realized it was Sybil leaning in close, his brow immediately furrowed. Sybil leaned in to kiss him, but Damon responded by driving his hand into her chest. Damon's awakening was thanks to Caroline's cleverness. Finally, Stefan was resurrected, though he only had a few minutes of freedom left, just enough time for a tender kiss with Caroline. Alaric finally agreed to meet Selene. He didn't want to leave any hidden dangers regarding the two children. To atone for her sins, Selene erased the twins' memories of her. Matt refused to speak to his father, but watching his father's aging figure walk away filled him with a deep sadness. As Stefan prepared to leave, Damon drove up to join him. From this moment on, the Salvatore brothers would serve Satan, harvesting all sinful souls. Stefan's face broke into an evil smile, indicating that he had turned off his humanity and reverted to being the Ripper of Monterey. What new fate awaits the Salvatore brothers as Satan's agents? Stay tuned for the next episode.